Okay, there's one more thing I want to say. Part three here, you guys, of this video. There's another reason why I got a little bit triggered when I saw these nurses ignoring my emergency button, the clicker thing. And it's because I was sort of tasked by my family to look after my baba, my grandmother. And my grandma had a lot of problems. But we loved her a lot because she was a character. And you can tell that she loved us kids a lot. So my family was very tight. We were poor, right? So poverty kind of either rips you apart or brings you together. And my family brought us together. So I looked after her, and there's traumatic things that happen with that emergency button. So my grandma's a very verbally articulate person. She memorized languages. She was very gifted, and she lost control of her gifts, and it turned into mental illness. So my family's been covering that up for a long time. They're embarrassed by it, but not me. Because there are some elements in it that can be concerning, it doesn't mean that it applies to everyone. Okay, so my grandmother was being treated in a sort of unique way at these old folks' homes we put her in. We put her in a very expensive one because she was a high needs person. And we loved her a lot. But I'd have to travel hundreds of kilometers to see her every week because I was working in one place and I had to drive to the city to the other. So I would do that. I think I drove like 12,000 kilometers over a year to see her. It was a hard time for all of us. But my grandmother, there's two occasions that really creeped me out. And it has to do with this emergency button thing. So every time I talk about it, these memories flash in my head and they're painful still. My grandmother died, I think, 8 years ago now. So before COVID, I walk into my grandmother's room. So I like to go unannounced because I like to go and see what's going on. I want to see if she's being treated fairly because I studied poverty and how power differentials of racism and all these things play in. There's a lot of racism between my grandma's generation and the nurses taking care of her. There was one nurse that was pretty disgruntled, I was noticing, and I was keeping an eye on that. And there's racism from both sides. Like my grandma was racist, terrible. Like just that's how it was in their age. And it's not flattering. And I can see why the nurses might get mad at her. But they're also professionals trained to deal with that. But I like to come in unannounced to look at and see how things are so they can't prepare things ahead of time. And twice I caught that somebody had pulled my grandmother's emergency device, the little button, out of the wall just an inch enough that it wouldn't engage the button. But it would look like it was plugged in. And I saw that, and my grandma was laying in bed, and she knew exactly what I was looking at. We both knew what I saw. And it creeped the heck out of me. What nurse would do that to somebody vulnerable? My grandmother couldn't get up. You know, it was towards the end stages. And my first reaction was to freak out. I start yelling and screaming, but I had read ahead of time that that's exactly how these institutions remove you from protecting your loved ones, is because they make you look crazy and erratic, and that you're the dangerous one to them. So I contained my anger and my fear for my grandmother. It's still affecting me. So anyway, it scared me. It scared me the first time. And my family wasn't seeing her often enough to scare away this nurse or whoever was doing this, right? So, you know, I made some notes and I talked to my mother, and we made a letter, a very professional letter to the head of the institution, and it said, we discovered something and we want it addressed. So, you know, when I had to leave her, my grandmother, imagine this person, you know, they could be torturing her. And it got really scary because she lost her ability to talk somehow, and she got these weird rashes, and I started to wonder, like, what the heck is going on here? So I'd come in again, and it happened again. It was unplugged again. I plugged it in, and it was plugged out again. So whoever was doing this was repeatedly doing it, and they're unplugging it because my grandma's being annoying, and she wants to get her to bed, and she wants them to take her around. But they're stressed, right? And so they, instead of dealing with the clicker and her pain, they unplugged her safety device. And what does that mean? That means that's aggression. That's an aggressive act of anger. And if they're willing to do that, what else are they willing to do? What did they tell her? You can tell people things and they won't talk. They'll say, oh, you think that you are going to get away with this? Well, you know what? If you tell somebody about this, we'll put you in so much pain, and they'll never know. We'll stop the pain before they show up, but we will make your life a living hell. And like that weird stuff happens. It happens, you guys. And because I studied it, it made me sick to my stomach. I ended up talking to undercover cops and going to these senior advocates. I know a lot about senior rights. I know a lot about unions because I unionize things. I know about trucking. I know about poverty. I went to New York, all these things. I have a lot of things that I did. But one of the things I was most proud of is that I took time to drive across the province to go to these senior events. And that's how I knew seniors were in trouble. Back in 2014, 15, and 16 when this was all happening. And I learned how bad it was getting. The loneliness, now we're all in a loneliness crisis, but I hit the seniors first because all the youth are on this hamster wheel and they can't go visit. Just like the Indigenous used to have the oldest and the youngest be together. So they would learn. It would give purpose to the elderly, and the young would have somebody to look after them who had that wisdom. And we broke that. We broke that cycle. And I went and I said, what can I do? Like, we don't know what's going on. What's legal? What's legal that I could do? And these cops are amazing. They said everything, and I went and we protected my grandmother. We did everything I possibly could do. I still don't feel like I did enough, but she told me some pretty scary things. Like she said to me, she said to me, I was sitting beside her bed table, and she said, she's the only one that ever called me Marky, so don't call me Marky, but she said, Marky, am I in hell? And she believed it. Okay, so it's a real thing. If you have elderly parents, go and see them. Okay? I'm in this basement fighting for everybody, okay? I'm down here doing my best. And I'd like you to do your best too. These are real issues. I've researched them. All right? These are real issues. It's not just material poverty for the poor that we recognize. There's poverty of spirit too. So we're all suffering in this system, okay? And I got a solution, and I want you to hear it and take it seriously. Okay. All right. I thought that was an important piece of why it's not a small thing when somebody ignores your safety devices like that. Okay? So that's what was going through my head too. It's like I was like, I'm not gonna let somebody abuse me like this. So, all right. Stay safe, okay, out there. Fight for your rights in as loving, compassionate way as you can. And we're all in this together. I'm here with you. Okay. Right. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much for helping. Okay. Stay blessed.